If you're currently struggling with a disease and finding it difficult to get out of that, then in this episode we are going to share about one singular factor that is always overlooked in conventional medicine. Hi, this is Zia and this is
Kamana, and welcome to Holistic Nomads TV,
where ancient wisdom and modern science can help you to have more clarity and energy in your life. So what is this one singular factor that is always overlooked in conventional medicine?
In Ayurveda, they like to group things into general categories, and they term this ama, this category. And ama relates to like half-digested byproducts, where the body is trying to digest life, and it starts to accumulate an excess of these half-digested byproducts, life that is going through the body that doesn't get transformed into tissues and becomes blocking waste amongst the body. Ayurveda refers that as ama, and this has a really strong effect on general disease across the body, because once we have a lot of half-digested byproducts, it starts to affect circulation, many other areas, and particularly it affects our body's digestion and metabolism.
We talked briefly about ama in the previous class about Agni. We will put the link on the caption below. And Agni in Ayurveda is the transformative fire force. And we also mentioned in that video a little bit the correlation between Agni and ama. So can you expand a little bit more on the correlation, the relationship between the two?
Yeah, so they're like an opposing seesaw to each other. Agni is the metaphor in Ayurveda for all metabolic, digestive, transformative processes in the body. And when it is functioning well and it is high, we digest and metabolize things well, therefore we have less half-digested byproducts, things that we tried to digest but we didn't get them into the desired metabolic forms, and therefore we have low amounts of them because we did get them into the desired metabolic forms. The opposite, the Agni-Ama seesaw, is when Ama goes high and we've got lots of half-digested byproducts in the body, blocking function, blocking circulation, and these half-digested byproducts tend to swamp the digestive system too, meaning that Agni, the transformative force, the digestive enzymes and all of those things are not able to make contact with the food as easily. They're surrounded by other ash. As an example, imagine a wood fire, there's this smoky ash that's all filled through and you can't get air properly in there for the fire to breathe. It's harder to place the logs in, there's not enough room, and therefore the fire doesn't burn the wood as well. It's the same. If ama is really high, then the fire isn't able to breathe properly. It's not as easy for the air to get in and for that transformation process to happen. So these work like opposing to each other. This Agni and ama seesaw inside the body is important to understand. We need to have good functioning Agni to reduce ama, and ama can be linked to all diseases. When ama goes high, all diseases in the body could start to aggravate more. It doesn't matter if it's a Vata, Pitta or a Kapha related to disease, ama increase will make more of it.
So in this case, if ama is high, then Agni is low, Agni is high, ama is low.
Yeah.
But before we continue to the next point, I'm curious, is there any case where Agni is actually too high that then makes the ama too high?
Not necessarily Agni is too high, but yeah, we could call it Tikshna Agni. This is where a Pitta fire, where we've got a really intense metabolic flame and digestive system, will start to create certain types of ama, certain types of metabolic wastes, half-digested materials. So if the person has a very strong Pitta body type, a really strong Pitta type digestive system, then that could create ama. Or let's say we have an excess amount of chili at a certain meal, then that's going to have excess of this fiery high Agni, over intense Agni at the time, which then could create ama. Yet here, the words I tried to use was good functioning high Agni, meaning not just like intense fire, but really nice fire at just the right amount that enables us to digest all the foods well. So we'll cover these three different imbalanced types of Agni, and one of them can be a Tikshna Agni, a sharp and intense, overly burning fire.
So in summary is important to know where is our ama is at, like the levels, and then also our Agni, because when we know our Agni, we know that how far up or down the ama is. Like in the previous episode, we already shared about Agni and also share the PDF on how to know where people at, where you at in your Agni level. And then is there any way for us normal people that doesn't go to practitioners to know about our ama level?
Yeah, I've developed a test for the Ayurvedic school that's an ama scoring test, and we'll explain the test in more detail towards the end. But basically, the higher the points there are towards signs and symptoms of ama, the higher the amount of ama that's present in your body, meaning a much higher chance of creating disease and excess doshas when those ama levels are really high. So we'll link up that in the show notes below, and you'll be able to do a little test at home to see, is this factor important? And if the scores are very low, then you can go straight away, oh, this isn't the cause for my disease. There could be other ones that I'll need to look for. But if you haven't checked ama, you need to check it first. It's one of the most important factors in Ayurveda to check first. Is there ama? And if it's high, eliminate that first before we really start to treat the doshas and other areas. An example of what happens with good Agni and the cycles that it creates inside the body is when we have a good digestive fire, we end up with good healthy fluids. Those fluids transport nutrition throughout the body, and that fluids with good nutrition creates good tissues, good bodily functioning parts. When we have good bodily functioning parts, we have lots of extra energy, ojas, stored vitality in the body, and that means we have extra energy to create good digestion again, good Agni. So that's this nice life-supporting health cycle that goes on. When we have excess ama inside the body, those half-digested byproducts, they float through the fluids and they tend to block the microcirculation, so things can't get into the micro areas of the joints anymore, enzymes can't flow through tiny little tubes and pores in the digestive tract, so it blocks the fluid systems when there's ama, these half-digested byproducts, meaning we end up with poor functioning tissues. We're not able to build good tissues anymore. They're very susceptible to small influences and disease, and the doshas can really influence the tissues in a bigger way. This means we have low ojas, low stored vitality, because the body's constantly trying to push things through small holes in the fluids and trying to mop up and build with disease influences in the tissues. It can't make more of this stored vitality, and that leads to more ama again. So this disease cycle keeps going around. Ama, poor fluids, poor tissues, poor long-term vitality. So we really need to look at this because it's a major causative factor within every single disease.
So what exactly happens in our body when ama is high, when this disease cycle of ama is actually happening?
The main thing that ama starts to influence inside the body is first it creates blockage and accumulation and stagnation. So it starts to block the microcirculation in the body, and that means that other things accumulate at the area where the ama is. So if we take the microcirculation into the joints, it's going to block the minerals that need to move in and out of the joints, making little bone spurs or other problems around where the entrance to the joint is. And then there'll be a deficiency, a stagnation happening inside the joint. Same if we looked at our blood circulation, maybe it's a fatty type ama that's circulating throughout the body, and it starts to block micro channels of circulation and getting fats, accumulation, cholesterol, meaning nutrition can't get to the cell walls as easily anymore, and it starts to accumulate byproducts and create stagnation in our circulation. This also starts to affect the digestive fire, and symptoms like bloating, constipation, an itchy anus, and a thick tongue coating. These are all signs that ama may be high. So normally the coating on the tongue should be very mild, almost no visible coating, and sometimes a little bit of coating towards the back for some people, but it definitely shouldn't be a thick coating across the tongue.
Talking about tongue coating, I just want to add briefly that we already talked about tongue coating. We will put the link on the caption below about the class, the previous class, about all of it, and especially when it comes to like thick coating and what it means, the color behind it, and where it is in the tongue. Check it out. Continue.
The next one is it will create nutritional deprivation because anytime nutrition comes to where armor is, it sucks the nutrition into it like a sponge, and it's not able to get that nutrition to the right area. So even if you have been digesting good foods for maybe 3 days or something, if you've got excess armor stuck inside your tissues, that good nutrition might just get sucked up like a sponge in the areas where the armor is, and not allowing it to properly penetrate into the areas that it needs to go. And eventually all of this starts to really decrease our strength, our ability to move the body in a powerful way, our enthusiasm for life, to get up and feel fresh. If you're waking up each day and you're feeling really heavy and it's hard to get moving, the chances are armor is one of the key things behind that imbalance.
So it looks like on the surface it sounds a lot like Kapha imbalance, because it's like making you slouch, it's like thick, it's like heavy, but I imagine that will be a difference between Ama and Kapha. What would that be if there's difference?
Yeah, the qualities between Ama and the qualities between Kapha are very similar. The main difference is that Ama will block all doshas and make an accumulation of Vata, Pitta and Kapha. So wherever Ama is in the body, all doshas will start to increase in that tissue. This is really important, because if you're ever getting signs of all doshas, you go, oh, there's some form of cold dryness going on my skin. There's internally blood that's moving out of the area, and that's a Vata and a Pitta symptom I've just talked about, and there's some form of blockage and congestion that's happening there and a feeling of heaviness in the leg, then there could be all 3 doshas that are accumulating because of Ama. Or if we have a fever and it's a high hot fever, it's very changeable. The person's getting dizzy back and forth is going on, and there's a thick coating on the tongue at the same time, then maybe all 3 doshas have really built up here. If it was a white thick coating, that would include Kapha there as well. So we've got to look at the relationship between Ama and Kapha. They're similar. Often Ama is formed from the same foods that could increase Kapha, yet when it's digested well and properly, it will make good quality Kapha inside the system. If it's half digested, it will make Ama. Yet there could be Ama also formed from Vata aggravating foods like legumes. There could be Ama that's formed from Pitta aggravating foods as well. So certain chilies, garlic, these things could create Ama. They're not as likely to, but they can. So we've got to look at all the different foods and how Ama will form. And that's one of the things that I think is really important in this class, is looking at how does Ama form? How can we generally reduce it across the body? Especially if you've done the score test and you've found that your Ama is high, then we'll start to detail those things.
What would be an example of like foods that cause Ama?
The first thing we look at in Ayurveda to understand food is the qualities and the characteristics of the food. So the taste is one of the things that we observe. There's 6 medicinal tastes, and we've got a few classes on the 6 medicinal tastes. So one that's related to food pyramid, and another one that's related to the individual tastes and has a chart that goes with it. So the sweet taste, meaning carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals, these heavier foods are the taste that's most likely to create Ama. We really need to understand it doesn't mean cut out all of these foods from the diet. It means use the ones that are the easiest to digest for a period of time until the Ama gets low again. The other qualities associated with Ama is it's sticky, it's heavy, it's viscous, it has like a slimy, oily consistency to it, thick, It's unctuous, means lubricating, moistening, and wet, and it's cold, and it has this sweet taste. So if it has more of these qualities, if it's a sweet food, let's say it's a banana, it's cooling. A banana is cooling in its thermal nature. It's moistening, it's lubricating, it's sticky, It has this like slimy consistency to it as well. It's heavy as far as fruits go. It's a heavier type fruit. Then we could say, oh, a banana is much more likely to form Ama. We could do the same with something like cheese. Cheese would tick many of these boxes. It has a sweet taste to it, building, nourishing protein, carbohydrates, fats, they're all present inside there. And it has many of the qualities we've just mentioned, meaning cheese and banana could be high armor forming foods.
So that sounds like a very tasty food that gives so much happiness to many people. Probably not you, it's like banana smoothie. I remember when, at the beginning of our relationship, like a few years ago, and then I knew nothing about Ayurveda, and then I remember we ordered a meal, and then I also ordered banana smoothie, of course, with dairy. And I offered to you. I was like, you don't want one? You were like, no, thank you. Probably at the time you don't want to like brainwash me yet. And I would just like want to see me doing, enjoying the pleasure that is so mundane and short term. And then later I knew that that's the worst thing that you could combine when it comes to like forming foods, banana and dairy. And I believe because it was in Indonesia, there's sugar on it too.
Banana,
or honey.
Dairy and sugar,
yeah. But it's so tasty.
So tasty, yeah. I really found out you don't push the knowledge on other people. If they're asking about it, then you give it to them at the time, but otherwise never sit down to a meal with a bunch of people and tell them about all the things that could be going on in their body. That's not my zone. I give when they're asking and it's time for it.
Cool. So that's the quality of ama in the foods. Then if you don't want to like add more ama, then we need to avoid foods with that qualities. And as always, when it comes to treating an Ayurveda, lifestyle is a huge part of it as well. So is there any other treatment plan for ama, specifically the lifestyle part? And if there's more in the food parts, would you also share that, please?
Sure, yeah. When treating ama, I first look at cause and particularly track and remove lifestyle causes. They're some of the most powerful. You may be able to eat many of those ama-forming foods if your lifestyle and your mindset is right on. So the first one is overeating. If you eat more than you can comfortably digest at a meal, it's very likely to make ama. We don't have enough digestive juices, we can't stir the food properly in the stomach, we're not able to chew as much, the whole digestive function goes out. In the class for overeating, it goes through your handfuls. So your hand sizes cupped in front of you is about the solid portion of food that you can eat. It goes into more detail on the 7 tips for eating to understand your individualized size. Try not to overeat so much. That's going to change a little bit depending on your dosha, the time of day, many other things, but it's a good generalization to start with. The second one is related to our sleeping times and if we stay up late. When we stay up late at night, a lot of metabolic functions don't work as well. We're not able to digest foods as well, and naturally if we stay up late, we often need to eat because we've stayed up later and the body needs food every 3 to 5 hours, generalization. So if we stay up late, it's much more likely to create ama. Go to bed before 10 p.m, really beneficial for the body. And the third one is if we have very low exercise. We need to move the body every morning after we wake up to make sure that the circulation really pumps and any little bits of ama that are in the microcirculation start to get pumped in that heating, warming activity and make their way back towards the elimination sites. It really helps to make a powerful digestive system for the rest of the day if we exercise first thing in the morning. There's lots of classes on exercise and holistic exercise, how to make it specific for you, so you can check out those classes in the links below as well. Our second one is track and remove diet causes. So we've gone through lifestyle first and now we start to look at causes within diet. The number one is dairy and yeast. So a lot of fermented grains tend to create quite a bit of ama inside the system. If we mix dairy and fermented grains together, so cheese and bread, this is a classic combination to break a lot of ama inside the system. Cheese is ama forming, fermented grains, heavy, hard to digest, ama forming too. So we really might need to take them out for a period of time. The second food category is bread or wheat, any flour products just by themselves. They're heavy, they're hard to digest, and specifically if it's flour, that's more likely because it's semi-oxidized and rancid, unless it's just been milled freshly. And you can look at some places that will mill the grain fresh and then make the bread, but that's very rare. Most commercial baking products that you look at out there will be made from some form of oxidized grain. That's ama before it was even inside your body. very hard for us to digest, more likely to block the system. So first dairy and yeast, next one's breads, flour products, and then our third one is fried foods. Fried foods, very heavy, slimy, hard to digest, and more likely to make AMA. So if you're trying to reduce AMA, first just cut out those three and see what happens. Do your body symptoms start to change? Maybe you can do the AMA test again in a couple of weeks' time. You might see that things have really shifted for you on what your score level is. Once we've started to remove the cause, then we move into the treatment from there. So the treatment specific, we'll start with what is your individual Agni type. So we all have a certain Agni type. There's a class that we've created to understand the 3 imbalanced Agni types that relate to the different doshas and the balanced signs and symptoms of your Agni type. This is your digestive metabolic type. If we start to balance our natural Agni type through foods and little bits of herbal medicine, then that can really help to reduce AMA in the long run. The second one is to align with the natural cycles, so to go to bed early, to wake up early. We've been evolving for thousands and thousands, possibly millions of years if we go to all the animals, with this rising and falling of the sun. It really influences our digestive system, and when the sun rises in the morning, to exercise. That natural cycle, super powerful to create a good Agni and reduce AMA. Our third one is to sip ginger tea, generally all day long, a weak ginger tea, not super intense, and just be sipping that warm ginger tea in a thermos, and it will make the whole body's circulation expand with that regular warmth, the warmth of the actual tea, and then the warmth of the thermal nature of the ginger itself. As it moves in through the circulation, it will keep expanding circulation and helping to digest the foods as it goes through. So our 3 tips for the treatment there: know your Agni type, start to balance that, get in line with the cycles of the day, exercise in the morning, and our third one, sip ginger tea all day long. Now, of course, these could be individualized for you with the YouTube. I'm trying to make it more general and something that every person could use at home quite easily.
So again, this video is educational in purpose, and we make it super compact. Even the treatment plan, first we track the root cause, what is from diet and with lifestyle, and then after that, the treatment that you shared just now earlier is a super simplified version. So as always, we always recommend you, if you think that you have excess AMA, or even if you don't know, maybe AMA actually the underlying cause of your health disease, then we will always recommend to seek help from practitioners, whether it's Ayurvedic practitioners or other practitioners. Well, Ayurvedic practitioner, because in this case, I'm related with Ayurveda. So if you would like Kimana's help with your disease, then healing it, in the caption below, there is a link to submit your name and email so that you will be listed on the waiting list when Kimana is available for consultation. And actually, there's another program that is specifically help you to heal your AMA, and that is your Ayurvedic mini Panchakarma. Can you expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, we call it the Vitality Now program, and it's a modified version of Panchakarma where we really focus on the digestive system. It's really designed to treat digestive disorders and imbalances. So in that program, we go through a pre-program that removes AMA. We then go through a program together in a group where we really strengthen the digestive system with specific foods, specific herbs that are designed for you, and purging, cleansing programs to be able to purge the doshas from the system as well. So it does remove AMA first, it checks out what your AMA score is with the consultation with me, and then we look at specifically how to remove those doshas and long-term to strengthen the Agni to have a post-program so that you're much less likely to accumulate AMA and the digestive system can be really strong. It can be individualized to many other diseases, yet the focus of the program is the digestive tract for everyone. That's what the base program covers, and then from there we can add on things to focus more specific for someone's other condition in a different area of the body. So that program's available. You can check it out on holisticnomads.com.
Or go straight to the website vitalitynow.co. Anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to talk about where these tools have come from. This tool comes from the school Ayurvedic.com. If you'd like to understand more about that or be a therapist that uses these tools with others, then you can check out the programs on Ayurvedic.com. This is part of the Level 2 Yoga Therapist program, which works a lot with the digestive system, Agni, Ama, and some movement therapies to really enhance metabolism and individualize it for a specific person. So if you're interested in that, I hope to share with you in the future there. It's always great to share this knowledge with you. I really look forward to sharing again in the future. Until then, all the best.
Now, theory without practice is wasteful because hearing leads to forgetting, teaching leads to remembering, and applying leads to mastering. That's why we will encourage you to leave a comment below and share one learning insight from this video. Also, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe so you will be the first to hear about our future educational videos. And for more resources on health and healing, check out our website holisticnomads.com. There you will find articles, quizzes on Ayurveda, loads of free downloads, and of course, our future events and courses. Thank you so much for watching. We hope it's been beneficial for you. Hope to see you next week. Bye!
So your two cupped hands. You just did a really strange burp.